Boston College is riding a 3-game losing streak. Can they end it against Syracuse? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black, part of the editor of the Eagle Insider, part of the 247 network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel to get yourself started. So, Boston College, Syracuse, they open things up on Saturday, a noon game. And as always on our Friday show, we are joined by Mitchell Wolf to talk about BC and the upcoming game. Mitch, Eagle Insider writer, how are we doing today?
Doing well. Excited to talk about this game. As I said on a show earlier this week, this is one of the most important games in Boston College football in the last 5+ years. So it's, this is going to be a big one.
All right. Let's kick this off by talking about Syracuse. This is a team that's gotten a lot of accolades to start their season. 6-2. Obviously, they deserve part of that. But as we had said at the beginning of the season, they had a very easy schedule. And I want to talk a little bit about what you've seen out of them so far. Are they as good as their record says, or have they just kind of lucked into some easy wins?
No, this is a paper tiger. They are 6-2. All of their wins, except for the wins against Ohio and Holy Cross, have been by a touchdown or less. They barely beat Georgia Tech at home, and also a lot of their games have been at home. They barely beat Georgia Tech at home, and I'm remembering back to that game, Georgia Tech choked that one away. That was more in Georgia Tech than Syracuse really winning it. They almost lost to UNLV on the road in overtime. They probably should have lost that game. I think Kyle McCord had 2 dropped red zone interceptions.
That was the game after Matthew Sluka left the team.
They beat a down NC State team by a touchdown. Excuse me. And then, of course, Kyle McCord has his terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day against Pitt. And honestly, you kind of throw that one out because it's like Locked On Syracuse said, that's an outlier of a game. And that's an outlier of a game for any quarterback outside of a Nathan Peterman or Jameis Winston, so you can kind of throw that one out a bit, but it happened. And then last week they are down by a lot to a undermanned Virginia Tech team who's missing Kyron Drones and Bashal Tutin. And then they find their way. They get back in that game. They go to overtime. They pull it out at home, lose to a Stanford team who is not good. And they lost that game at home. I'm not impressed by this team. I think they have a very good offense. I think when I was talking to somebody else about this, talking about the two, and this was kind of in the wake of the Pitt-Syracuse game, about Pitt and Syracuse being the two, what I would say, fraudulent teams in the ACC. And I would say that Pitt was until they played SMU, they were the favored by God team. And then Syracuse was the deal with the devil team. So, when you watch those games, you're both kind of asking, how does this keep happening to them? And then eventually the luck is going to break.
Right. Yeah. As you just mentioned, so many things have happened for them that have just been. Is that me or you? Do you hear that?
There's a garage right below where I live.
So
it's the garage door opening. I'm surprised.
It sounded like a UFO hitting or something.
I guess after all the times you said you could hear my cat meowing in the background of podcast, that does make sense. But yeah, even that UNLV game, they had 2 blocked punts, one of which was a touchdown. The other one I think got recovered at the 1 or was a touchback or whatever. So yeah, the fact that they've won all these games is a lot of it is luck. And granted, they do have a very good offense that keeps them in games and affords them the chance to win. But they have also had a lot of lucky breaks so far.
Is there anything about the Syracuse team that makes you nervous? Is there something about?
Yeah. The passing game is still very good. Kyle McCord is a good quarterback. They have also built this offense to help him and best take advantage of his skill set, and also, mask the problems with some of their other players and take advantage of their skill set. So credit to Jeff Nixon, who is a Matt Rule disciple, has been with him for a long time, followed Fran Brown to Syracuse. This offense, it's all about getting the ball out of Kyle McCord's hands in 2.5 seconds or less. I'm going to try to pull the stat up here as fast as I can. So Kyle McCord, come on now. Sorry, I'm having some trouble finding the number, but I'll eventually get it. So but they got the ball out of his hands very quickly. Okay, he has the 9th fastest average time to throw among FBS quarterbacks with at least 150 dropbacks at 2.48 seconds. So they want to get the ball out of his hands quick, and it's not necessarily a gimmicky offense. They're not just throwing screens and RPOs. They're one of the top teams in terms of throwing the ball between 1 and 9 yards downfield. They rank 5th in those passes at 45.9%. So it's a lot of just quick passes, and they force the defense to just keep getting close. Like, you want to bait the defense into biting on these short throws. So you keep throwing these quick passes. They keep going for, not a ton of yards, but you keep hitting them, and then the defense overcommits to that. And then eventually they'll start trying to hit the deep ball. And Kyle McCord, to his credit, when he is kept clean, when he gets the ball out of his hands quickly, he is accurate. He is he's not completely immobile, but he's in the Tyler Shuck realm where he can run a bit to extend the play, but he's not going to be a crazy designed running threat. And I personally think he overestimates his physical talents a bit in terms of when he is outside the pocket, he thinks he can make some really good throws when in actuality he can't. So when he gets pressure, when he has to hold on to the ball longer, that's when things start to break down for this offense. And the problem is they lean so heavily on the pass game when, frankly, I think they should be running the ball more because LaQuint Allen, their running back, is an excellent running back. Despite Syracuse having basically no offense outside of him last year when BC played them, he killed BC, and he's a very dynamic player, is a great rusher, great receiver, good blocker. But they just, he had a career game best game of the year against Virginia Tech last week. 121 yards, I think 3 touchdowns. So great, and he has great games, but they just don't. They're the number 1 passing team in the country in terms of drop back rate, passes, attempts, pass completions, everything. So he just doesn't get the ball enough, in my opinion.
All right, now talk to me about this defense. You mentioned that they struggle with tackling. I know that was a big thing with you. Let's get into a little bit of that.
Yeah, they're one of the worst tackling teams in the FBS. I'm going to try to find the stat again, so I can say it again. Okay, here we go. Their missed tackle rate of 18.7% is the 5th highest in the FBS and the worst among Power 4 teams. And the guy from Locked On Syracuse mentioned it. They have some issues with missed tackles, and I think he undersold it, honestly. Like, watching them on defense, they are flying to the ball. They're getting there, but guys are not breaking down. They're not using proper technique. They're not disciplined in that area. And a lot of times they're just not physical enough. Like, they'll just kind of like lunge at guys with their arms. And that's just not good tackling technique. And, we've seen that from BC in the past years under Jeff Hafley. And then this year we've seen that really change under Tim Lewis and Bill O'Brien, where they've really focused on proper tackling. And BC is, I don't have the number in front of me, but I think they're like a top 15 team in terms of lowest missed tackles. So that's something that BC needs to take advantage of. Again, we talked about the penalties, special teams. Like, this team just has discipline issues, like focusing on the little things that allow you to win games. And we'll get to it, but that's why I think BC has a really good chance to win this game.
So we're calling them paper tigers. I like it. I want to talk a little bit about BC though, and what you think BC has to change other than punting. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the job. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here, joined by Mitchell Wolf. We're both of Eagle Insider. I'm the host here. And if you're done with this podcast, you're looking for a second listen, check out Locked On ACC. If you have not already listened, and many of you still haven't, so go back and listen. As Mitch has said, I did a crossover episode with Locked On Syracuse yesterday. For you BC fans, he didn't know who Diamond Ferry was. So that was a learning moment for him, younger guy. I felt like I was ancient. But go check that out on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Now, BC, off of a bye week. This is their second bye week of the season. We still don't know the health status of Cam Arnold and Turbo Richard. I'm based off of Bill O'Brien's comments this week, where he said, for both of them, basically the exact same thing. It was like their day to day. We'll know more as the week goes on. To me, I would be surprised if either of them play, but we'll have to wait and see. BC's mostly healthy, but they've got a lot to improve here, Mitch. What are you going to be looking for out of the Eagles come Saturday?
Well, as I said, Syracuse's offense is completely predicated on getting the ball out quickly. And for me, that means that BC needs to flood the short area of the field with zone coverage, take those quick throws away, and make Kyle McCord hold on to the ball. Ideally, that means he will hold on to the ball. That'll give the pass rush more time to get to him. Of course, the pass rush needs to win their one-on-one matchups, which is something they've struggled with this entire season outside of Donovan Ezeraku. Of BC's 13 sacks, he has 9 of them. That should tell you all you need to know about the rest of this defensive line. So that's one aspect. Obviously, the defensive backs need to execute their assignments well and, cover Syracuse receivers well. They don't have necessarily like an overwhelming talent. Like, I don't think they have a Ja'Cory Brooks in terms of guy who's going to burn them deep. Aronde Gadsden, a tight end slot hybrid, is a very good player. Trebor Pena, who's their slot receiver, he leads the team in all receiving categories. Ironically, I think he's only actually played BC once, even though he's been at Syracuse for 5 years because of injuries. And I think the time he did play, he only played on 1 kick return snap. But he's been there forever, but he's never actually played BC.
And I think he's banged up again. I thought I heard them say this week that he's going to play, but they had to ask him if he was Fran if he was going to play.
Yeah, I mean, that would be huge. Jackson Meeks, solid outside wide receiver. And then they get LeQuint out on the ball a ton in the receiving game too. So they've got a good amount of weapons and they spread the ball around pretty well, but there isn't like one guy that's like, okay, we need to focus. There's no Luther Burden on this offense. So that's pretty good, but then BC needs to be sound across the board. On the other side of the ball, and we said this for weeks, I'm broken record here. BC needs to run the ball, control the clock, maintain possessions, and turn those possessions into touchdowns. Obviously you want to keep Syracuse's offense off the field. You want to give BC's defense rest. And you want to obviously score points and just run the ball well. And I think that they can do that because Syracuse's defense, even though they have a different coordinator, a pretty different staff, they're still running this 3-3-5 defense. They're playing with very light boxes, lighter personnel. Justin Barron, who was their safety last year, he's now a linebacker. He was the guy who knocked out Kai Robichaux last year in the game. So and Marlo Wax is back. He missed most of the season with injury, but now he's back and he's an excellent linebacker. But their defensive line is pretty banged up, especially at the defensive tackle position. So BC should be able to run the ball decently well. Again, in theory, we've said that multiple times this season, and it hasn't come to fruition. So that's really the key for me is BC needs to be able to run the ball well. The question is, how does Syracuse respond to that? Are they going to change their tendencies? Are they going to start loading the box with more defenders, or are they just going to keep doing what they've been doing? And if they do load the box, then can BC take advantage of that with play action passes, RPOs, what have you?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot on Thomas Castellanos. We've been saying that for a month now. He's going to be able to figure this out. Mm-hmm. He's going to make better reads. He's going to get the ball to guys that are open.
And this is a defense that is they are one of the most drop 8 heavy teams. So in terms of pass rush, they're only rushing 3 defenders. They're only rushing 3 defensive linemen, and they're dropping 8 defenders into coverage, which is what a lot of teams have done to combat Thomas Castellanos because they want to make him stay in the pocket, throw the ball against zone coverage, and make a mistake. I'm trying to find their numbers on this. So they, come on. Sorry, I'm just looking at my article from it, and I cannot find it. But it's different from last year because they're not blitzing as much. They're not doing a ton of man coverage, but they're dropping all these guys into coverage, and so they want Thomas Castellanos to basically throw that ball that'll make a mistake or run it. But all those 8 defenders are looking at Thomas Castellanos, so if he does run, they're all prepared to go get him. And I asked Louis Bond about this during the midweek media availability, and asked, okay, so how do you combat that? And I asked him about scramble drill, and he said, yeah, we always work on scramble drill with Tommy, but we definitely focused on that more this week because we know we're going to need to do that because they're going to drop 8 in coverage. We need to find those holes in the zone, and then if Tommy needs to escape, we need to get our eyes on him and find a way to get open against the coverage, and also run with him to give him a good option to throw while he's on the run.
Now, the BC's had a week and a half off. Do you? Let's ask the $1 million question. Are they going to be able to fix special teams? So you know what's really interesting. You brought up, and I want to give Mitch credit for this. You were talking to me, and I forget if it was even on text or on the show, about the role of a special teams coordinator and how important it more their role is setting up the blocking on kick returns and kickoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And less on just the actual kicking.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting because Bill O'Brien, during his, I think it was the Wednesday press conference, the one you sent me, said that he's, areas of special teams he's very impressed with. And he mentioned specifically all the things that you think of would be something that Matt Turn would do, which is
Mm-hmm.
the coverage has been really good, he said, and all of that. That was just a side point to the fact of, are they going to be able to fix this punting? Because I cannot watch 20-yard punts again.
I mean, like I've said for years, I'm not an expert in kicking and punting mechanics. I don't know. I hope they will. It'll be interesting to see if they have a new body that is the new punter. Do they go back to somebody old? Do they bring back Sam Kendati, who's now back on the team apparently? Do they keep trying Ivan Zvenko? I don't know. And if it is one of the old guys, then that could swing the game against them. But like I've said, I honestly think that because of Syracuse being so bad on special teams, and their punting has been, the actual punting has been okay. They've had some punts blocked against UNLV, like I mentioned. They're terrible in field goals. They've missed half their field goals. They missed extra point. They're not good on kick coverage, both in terms of kickoffs and punting. So maybe I think that's somewhere where BC can find an advantage, because like I've said, they're terrible at punting, and field goals and extra points have been a roller coaster, but they've been pretty good on the coverage and returns. They've been pretty good on coverage, solid to okay on returns. And if they can find a way to create an edge there against a team that struggles against it, that could be a game changer here.
So what you're saying is we should expect a 60-yard field goal from Syracuse against BC, right?
They have not attempted a kick of more than 50 yards this year, and
they're going to kick a 60-yard field goal.
I think when I looked, they were 1 of 5 on kicks between 30 and 39 yards.
So I have a suggestion. What they need to do is for punting, go back to Sam Kendati and fake it. Make it 2 years in a row. Let's do it. If you guys remember last year, that was I don't even know if they scored off that drive.
No, they actually they did end up punting on that.
That game was awful. That
was bad. I think though that the ensuing drive, because they did punt, or actually I think I remember what happened. They got stuffed on 4th down inside Syracuse's red zone on a 4th and 1, and again, why are they running for the quarterback from shotgun on 4th and 1? It's because they've been doing it all year and it's been working really well up until this one play. And then I think on the ensuing drive, Syracuse threw an interception to Elijah Jones.
Because Carlos Del Wilson.
Carlos Del Rio Wilson. Yep.
Who's going to be out for this game? I heard he was out. So don't have to worry
we do not root for injuries on this program, folks. We do not root for injuries.
I'd actually rather him be healthy, because I'd rather see him play than Kyle McCord.
That's true.
But, all right, in our final segment, Mitch and I are going to talk about our predictions. But before we do that, we're going to talk about FanDuel and our picks of the week. So Mitch and I were discussing about FanDuel if we wanted to go with just top 25 picks or ACC. We decided to stick with ACC this week, and there's a few interesting games. None of them huge games, but games worth talking about. First one is Duke and NC State. And it's in It's at NC State in the Tar Heels. Wolfpack are a 3-point favorite.
Ken Gibbs is going to yell at you.
Yeah, I know. I don't think he knows we exist. All right, 3-point favorites for the Wolfpack. What do we got?
I've got 3.5 for the Wolfpack, and and honestly, even if it was 3, I would take Duke here. And granted, I have been very skeptical of Duke this entire season. Obviously, they had that weird game against SMU where SMU turned the ball over 6 times and still found a way to win. I'm still taking Duke. Obviously, it's not a far drive from Duke to NC State, and NC State has just not been that impressive to me. The defense has taken a decently big step backwards. Their quarterback has been fun at times, but Manny Diaz is still a pretty good defensive coordinator. The Duke is playing well, so I'm taking Duke plus 3.5 here.
I'm gonna go with NC State. I'm gonna go CJ Bailey. I know that he's getting a ton of press, and I think he'll have a good game. I'm not impressed with Duke. I know that their defense has been okay. I think they're just a really mid team, and the way that NC State has been playing, I think they could win by like a touchdown or so. So I'm gonna go with the Wolfpack. All right, game number 2. Let's go with the Clemson Tigers at Virginia Tech. Clemson's a 6-point favorite in this one.
Yeah, I've got 5.5, and there are rumors that Drones and Tootin could miss this one again. I'm not sure if that's baked into this line. I feel like it's not, because it's a pretty low line. I know Clemson's coming off a struggle against Louisville at home, but again, I think Clemson has, they have certain things, especially if Drones and Tootin are not in this game. Clemson's defense can play well and take that offense away. So I hate doing it, but I'm gonna take Clemson here on the road -5.5.
Okay. I'm going to go with Clemson on this one. I don't know. Again, I don't know what the health is of Tootin and Drones. After watching...
Even if they do play, it's probably fair to assume that they're not 100%.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And last week, Virginia Tech didn't impress me at all against Syracuse. So I think Clemson with this one. And do we want to do any other ACC, or should I jump over to top 25?
Let's just jump top 20. Let's jump top 25.
All right. Let's do Georgia and Ole Miss. Georgia is a 2.5-point favorite spread, I think I see.
Yep. On the road. That's a tough one, but because it's 2.5, I'm going to go with Georgia because, you get the field goal there. I know Georgia has not been impressive. Struggled with Florida in a rivalry game, a neutral site. Carson Beck has been playing not super well. I feel like Ole Miss also just kind of under the radar. Like they beat the crap out of a, kind of mid Arkansas team. I just think Georgia's this is the game like they're going to be amped up for. I'm sure Kirby's going to give them what for in practice. I just don't trust Ole Miss. Honestly, I just don't trust Ole Miss's offense against this Georgia defense, especially if they're going to be missing wide receiver Trey Harris.
I last time I picked against Georgia was against Texas, and they stomped them. So oh gosh, I really want to pick Ole Miss here after watching Carson Beck look like, what did he throw, 4 interceptions last week? So I'm gonna go with the Rebels again. I'm gonna go with Ole Miss, and I'll take the points there. All right, and our final pick, it's the game day game. Alabama 2.5-point favorites over LSU. I'm gonna go with Alabama here. I know it's in Death Valley, but
that's the thing, is LSU getting points in Death Valley is really tough. But I will say this. And granted, Texas A&M had the advantage of LSU not preparing for it, but Marcel Reed of Texas A&M the quarterback ran all over LSU. Alabama has Jalen Milroe, arguably the best running quarterback in the country. Obviously, LSU is going to prepare for it. They're going to be ready for it. But I'm going to borrow this from the Cover 3 podcast with Bud Elliott, Tom Fernelli, Chip Patterson, and Danny Cannell of CBS Sports. Alabama does not have a ton of tough games the rest of the season where they're going to need Jalen Milroe to run. So I think that Kalen DeVore can say, all right, Jalen, saddle up, because you are going to be running the ball 20, 30 times in this game. To be ready, we'll give you rest for the next few weeks, but you're going to tote the rock a ton this time. So I'm going to go with Alabama. Again, 2.5 is a good number for Bama. I think can win by a field goal. So I'll take Bama -2.5.
I get a feeling it'll be one of those classic Alabama.
Oh, I mean, these games always deliver. Even if it's not if it's a low scoring game, these games are always tightly contested. Obviously, LSU has, I would say, the best college football atmosphere in the country. So yeah.
And over under 58.5, maybe going with the under on that one.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, both defenses actually struggled. I don't know. That's a tough one.
All right. Well, anyways, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel sportsbook gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the live stats, get live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel. An official sportsbook partner of the NFL. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5 APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for products Specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. Just as a reminder, check out Locked On ACC. Check out Locked On Syracuse if you want other great Locked On shows to check out. Check those out when you're done with our show, anywhere you get YouTube or your podcasts. All right, prediction times, Mitch. I'll go first on this one. And I know we're going to be different on this one because I'm going to be Debbie Downer here. I, on the Locked On Syracuse crossover, picked against BC, and I'm going to stick with that. I am still hesitant to pick against this, to show faith in this offense. It's been a huge disappointment from what I've seen. And I don't know. I don't think that Thomas Castellanos and the way that this offense has been running can put together four quarters, as Bill keeps saying, to put enough points to stop what Kyle McCord could do. I do expect this to be a closer game near the end, but I'm going to pick Syracuse to win by 10. I'm going to have it, 35-21 or something, 35-24. And I don't know why I have BC kicking a field goal, but I'm going to go for it. Where they kicked 2 field goals so far this year, or kicked 2 attempts.
Yes, they have kicked 1 field goal,
and then the one that I got.
They have attempted 2,
and so 2. All right, so I'm going to go with them. Going to lose by 11.
That's totally fair. I mean, if you watch this team over the last month, even the whole season, like you're like, this offense is pretty anemic. Defense is honestly pretty anemic too. Like, sometimes they have great performances. Sometimes they'll perform really good for a quarter or a half, and then the rest of the game they'll just completely fall apart. Totally fair prediction. I'm going to go with BC to win 35-27. And again, I think these teams are pretty evenly matched. I think BC in terms of talent, I think BC has the players and the scheme to take advantage of Syracuse, especially when BC is on offense. Again, we're assuming that they can run the ball well. They should be able to, even if we assume Turbo Richards is not going to play, they should be able to do that. We saw even last week, Virginia Tech ran all over Syracuse without Kyron Drones and Bayshall Tootin, with Colin Schlee and Malachi Thomas and some other backup running backs. BC's quarterback and running backs are better than Virginia Tech's backups at. And also, I know people might disagree with this, but BC's offensive line is better than Virginia Tech's offensive line, especially as run blockers. So that's another element of it. On defense, it's going to be tough. Like this is definitely going to need to be a bend don't break game. BC's defense is going to need to create some turnovers. We obviously talked about special teams earlier, and I think this is the one game this season where BC might actually have an advantage in that field. And I think that some way in special teams or a defensive turnover or like near defensive touchdown, that is going to be the difference in this game. Like BC is going to have some, and you know what, I'm sure that when the game's over, like people are going to say, oh, it was a fluky play. It was this, that. Yep. It probably is going to be a fluky play, but that's going to be the decisive turning point in this game where BC gets finally the luck to break on special teams, or they get a turnover and return it for a touchdown. You're muted.
This is a really big game for BC.
Huge.
And one that it's a must win for Boston College. So I'm sure Bill O'Brien knows that. I'm sure the staff is taking it one game at a time, as they say, but they need to win this. And I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong on this, because I think if BC can win this, it would be a obviously win number 5 for all you guys out there on FanDuel. That's a big win. Also, though, you're beating your rival. And Syracuse obviously is a historic rival, a team that honestly BC has had some issues with. Even when they're better than them, they still seem to struggle. And it sets you up where you just need to win one more game to get to a bowl eligibility. So could they come out there and be more efficient? Absolutely. We're just going to have to wait and see. It's going to be about 50 degrees around noon. We'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be in the press box, and I'll be going live on Locked On Boston postcast after to talk about the game. So make sure you're subscribed there. Mitch, where can people find you?
You can find me at Mitchell T. Wolf, WOLFE on Twitter. You can check out our work on Eagle Insider. The match report is up there. The weekly previews up there, has all the stats and info you could want. And then we'll obviously have post-game coverage covering this entire game. And if BC wins, that's going to be huge. And I'll tease this there. If BC loses this game, I might have a little surprise for the watchers of this podcast, you're gonna have to tune into this on YouTube, and I'll tell AJ about it off camera once we stop recording.
Oh boy, I cannot wait to hear what that is. All right. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Come over to Eagle Insider. We just as a new addition, we've added some BC students who are now covering BC women's basketball for us. We had Nick's son covering today, where BC women's basketball clobbered Sacred Heart like I think it was 102-58. And we had Julia Burrito cover the last game. So we got a couple different BC students that are covering that. I also want to shout out women's field hockey, who played for the ACC championship tomorrow at noon. That's a really cool. I don't really cover field hockey here, but I want to shout them out. That's a great. Anytime you can get a team to the ACC championship, we don't get that a lot at Boston College. So good luck, field hockey team tomorrow. They're playing UNC, who's the top ranked ACC team. Hopefully they can get that win. That would be a nice addition to the BC hardware case. So thank you all for following along. And we will see you all again tomorrow for another episode. Or actually, we'll see you on Monday for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.